Good morning, Las Vegas. Welcome to Mortgage Matters. I'm Roland Daniels, a certified mortgage advisor with Geneva Financial. And I'm here this morning, as always, with my fantastic co-host, Heidi Griffith. Good morning, Heidi.
Well, good morning, Roland.
Good morning.
So we've been having some really interesting conversations with buyers lately, haven't we?
We have.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people kind of waiting to purchase are running into kind of these kind of scenarios right now. You can be fully approved to buy a home and still not be able to buy the one you absolutely want. So let's get back to it.
Let's do it.
I'm going to say it again. Biggest barriers to home ownership.
Credit and money.
Money's always the big one.
It is.
It hasn't changed. I don't think it will ever change.
No, since it takes the average person 7 years to save up for that down payment.
Man, and what do prices look like 7 years from today?
I wish I had that crystal ball.
It broke. Your
Yes,
crystal
it
ball
did.
broke, Roland.
It did.
So we're also seeing something, and I thought we would talk about it today because we're seeing it more and more when people get pre-approved. The first thing that we suggest doing, the first thing that we teach in class, real estate professionals will tell you the first thing you need to do when you go out to purchase a home is to get pre-approved.
Right.
And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, so that you know how much you qualify for and what you can actually look at, right?
That is
and
very true.
A lot of real estate professionals, they can't just be taking you around willy-nilly.
Well, most of them won't even put you in the car or send you anything until you're pre-approved.
Right, because they need to know what to send you.
That is correct.
They need to have a better understanding of what you're going to be purchasing. And we're seeing this happen a lot more. So I thought that we would talk about it today. And that's, you get pre-approved. You get pre-approved for a dollar amount. And we're just going to make up numbers. Let's call it you're pre-approved for $450,000.
Okay.
Okay. Pre-approved for $450,000. You go out shopping. You find something you like. And maybe your realtor sends the information on the property. Maybe you call and give us the information on the property. And when I say the information, I'm talking about the sales price or the price that you plan on offering on the property, property taxes, and the HOA, if there's an HOA. And you said that correctly, the HOA.
The HOA.
And, I'm not necessarily anti-HOA. They've got their bonuses, I guess.
Yes. But you just have to remember it's part of that mortgage payment.
Right. So there's some ups and downs with HOAs. I'm sure that if you're tuning in this morning, I said HOA, you probably grumbled a little bit, right? But along with all of those grumbles comes the amount for the HOA. And we're primarily seeing this in condo communities and condominium communities. HOAs are there for a purpose, obviously, there's bylaws, there's all that kind of stuff, but there's also a fee associated. And I'm sure that we've all pretty much heard some of the horror stories along with that. And we continue to see HOAs go up. And when we sit down with folks, I know that you do this, I do this. When we sit down with folks on that initial conversation that we have, just a conversation about, goals and what we're looking for in purchasing
dreams and goals.
Yeah. We talk about pre-approvals not being specifically blanket.
Right.
So, yeah, you qualify for $400,000, but
doesn't mean that you have to buy a home at $400,000.
Yeah, and if the HOA is more than we estimated, and we try and estimate high on HOAs.
We do.
If the HOA is higher, that could then bring your pre-approval down.
Correct.
Because we as lenders, all lenders, are going to account for whatever that HOA payment is. Even though it's not paid in your mortgage, we still, when you're getting pre-approved and when you're getting qualified, we're going to add that payment in. So if we pre-approved you at $400,000 with property taxes at, $175 a month, that's an estimate, right? Because we don't know what property it is yet. And a $150 HOA and property taxes are higher than estimated, which could happen.
Yep, depending on where that property is actually located.
And two properties next door to each other could have completely different property taxes.
And then when it comes to conventional financing, we have mortgage insurance premiums or private mortgage insurance, and then FHA mortgage insurance premium, along with principal and interest. That's the 5 pieces of that total mortgage that we have to account for.
Right. So payment, interest, taxes, mortgage insurance, if there's mortgage insurance, and HOA.
And HOA.
Are the 5 things we look at. But the HOA throws us for a loop on some transactions, especially, in working with folks who maybe they qualify for a lesser amount, maybe
Right.
it's, 300,000, and they've decided, because once we get onto, I don't know, Zillow, we'll call it Zillow, my buddy Zillow. We get onto Zillow and start looking at properties, and maybe we see a super cute condo for 280 and think that, okay, slam dunk.
Right. It looks wonderful.
Right. It's going to really depend on what that HOA costs, because we've had buyers who were out looking.
Yep.
They qualified for an amount on paper. The HOA was some outlandish amount, because the average HOA for condo communities in town is anywhere from $250 to $400 plus.
Wow. The HOA fees have definitely
They have.
increased over the years.
They have. And, that $250 is going to be a very basic community. Some of the luxury, the high rise, all of that kind of stuff, that's definitely going to be more than $400 in so many instances.
Right.
So we have to take that into account. So when we say we pre-approve the property, that's why we ask folks when they're out shopping to send us the information. We'll run the numbers, especially if you're close, in qualifying. Now, if you qualify for $600,000 and you're out looking for a $400,000 house, obviously it doesn't count as much. But if we're close to that number, we want to run the scenarios to make sure.
And we do recommend that you send us that information so we can run the numbers and go over the numbers with you.
Well, again, yeah, that's amazing, because you're now able to see what that looks like
and see what that total payment is as well.
Right. And again, when we're giving people, estimated total monthly payments, those include the HOA.
It is.
When you pay your mortgage, it will be less whatever that HOA amount is, but you still have to pay your HOA.
Right. Just know you have to pay that a separate check, or however you want to pay it, that separate HOA payment from that mortgage.
Yeah. And I'm going to add an asterisk here, because we got a call from somebody just yesterday on this. And so I thought this is a good time to just kind of mention this so that we all understand your HOA can foreclose on you if you don't make that payment.
Wow.
So food for thought as you look at stuff. I'm not telling you not to purchase in an HOA community. Pretty much every condominium, every townhome community has HOAs in town. I think that 60%, give or take, of our properties here in the Valley have HOAs.
Vegas area. Yes.
Yeah. So, we work with buyers who are completely against HOAs and will not purchase in an HOA. And that actually makes their search a little bit more challenging, because there's less homes without.
Homes available.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So anything built before 1990, there's a good chance that you can probably find something in there. But I know when I started my real estate career, it was the birth of the HOA, and everybody said, California brought the HOA here. Well, you know how that goes.
Yes.
You know how that goes. But so it's just food for thought. The HOA is going to get counted as your mortgage. If for whatever reason you're really close in your qualifications, that HOA, if it's higher than we estimated, and again, you and I estimate high.
We do. We really do.
This.
Yes. We want to take into account of everything that's involved in it.
Yeah. If you have any questions about anything we talk about today, please feel free. You can give us a call or text us. We're at 702-540-0420. Again, that number is 702-540-0420. So as we talk about the HOA thing, right? And being qualified based on a property, and I know that sounds different than most people here, I've got a great story. We have a client that's actually going to close in just a couple of days.
Which is awesome.
It is awesome. She's a phenomenal lady. She's got a great story. I think that she's really thought this process through. And I was really impressed with her movement as she went into homeownership.
I agree with you. She's probably one of the most disciplined borrowers we've had.
Yeah. And it's hard. We understand
it. It's very hard.
I know I've, bought a few homes in my lifetime, and I know how emotional buying a house is.
I think it's probably one of the emotional events that will happen in your life.
Right. And even bigger than, you've got ups and downs. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes you feel like,
it is.
What am I doing? What did I make the wrong decision? But even bigger than that, the emotion of excitement takes over. And, it's, we say it all the time. It's that whole FOMO thing. And you start thinking that you need to have bigger, or you have to have better, or, you start decorating in your brain. And a lot of times some of the logic goes out the window when you're making purchases like this.
And for those who don't know, it's the fear of missing out.
So there's a lot of emotion, and then people look at it a little differently.
They do.
You know, great situation scenario that happens a lot is that folks come in, they get pre-approved, right?
Yep.
And it may not even be an HOA thing right now. They're pre-approved for a certain dollar amount based on what they earn.
And they're just happy.
And they're excited and they're out looking. But then, you know, the stuff that they already looked at online before they got pre-approved was cuter or nicer, or the rental property that they're living in, you know, looks better than anything that's in their price range.
About their rental property?
Oh, it looks so much better than the stuff that I'm looking at that's in my price range. And they're not thinking about big picture.
Right.
And I'm not telling you that they're wrong. I've done it. I had big dreams for my first house. I had it decorated in my head before I even saw it. But I love what this client is doing because she knew that she's in a rental right now. She knew with her 2 kids and with their lifestyle, the kids did a lot of, you know, they do a lot of activities. They like to go on vacations together. And you just want a little bit of level of comfort.
Right.
In your monthly expenses.
Well, you don't want to be tied to that mortgage payment.
Well, and
right?
This is even before. Yeah, this is her rental. And she knew with her current rental amount that it wasn't comfortable.
Right.
She knew going into home buying that she wanted to stay under $2,100, give or take, a month. Because she wanted it to be less than what she was currently paying.
And it is a little bit less than her current rent.
It is.
Yeah.
And it was tough.
It was tough.
Because that doesn't allow you much to qualify for.
No, because most of the time the mortgage payment is more than your rent.
Right. And that's where we talk about that
practicing, right?
Is talking about practicing paying your mortgage. Yes. So what that basically looks like is while you're still renting and you get pre-approved and you know that your mortgage payment will be roughly this dollar amount and you pay this in rent, you may pay, I don't know, $1,800 in rent and your new mortgage payment is going to be $2,400. You pay yourself that difference every month just so you get that feeling.
But in this situation, it's almost reverse.
Right. Well, and she that qualifying number wasn't as, you know, much as she actually qualified for because she did want to keep her payment down. And so looking for a property, and I'll tell you, she was looking for about $250,000. With that $250,000, that was because we knew that there would more than likely be an HOA.
Right.
At that price point. It becomes, you know, a condo, a townhome, something like that. And so we knew that we would have to look at every property, not because she wouldn't qualify, but because she wanted to make sure her payment was comfortable. And I give her big kudos on that because she knew what her budget was. She stuck to it. And
she did.
It wasn't overnight that she found a property. I'm telling you.
It was more than one property. Matter of fact, it was like 6 or 7, 8 different properties,
I ran numbers.
Right?
I ran numbers on probably, 12, 15 different scenarios on different properties so that we could kind of break it down. I worked really closely with the realtor so that he could then negotiate the best for this client. He did a phenomenal job. He really was looking out for his client's best interest.
Right.
And finally, they were able to find an awesome condo. Enough room for her and her 2 kids in the school area that you want to say, not the district, since we only have one.
So one of the areas that was that kind of, how should I say, the search, it made it a little bit tougher due to the fact that she wanted to be close to the school.
Well, she wanted to stay in the area so the kids could get to school. But she also was willing to go away from whatever her initial criteria was to find a property. She'd even thought about Pahrump. It's just that once she got into Pahrump, saw what was there, and then realized that drive, knew that probably wouldn't work for her. But she really did exhaust all of the options. And they found this property. She was able to negotiate. It's a conventional loan.
Right.
And they were able to negotiate the maximum allowed seller credits towards the closing costs. So they got the full 3%. The appraisal came in $5,000 higher than what her offer was.
Right.
Another, fantastic thing. She's going in with $5,000 in equity. And her payment is under what she needed.
Wanted.
And so she's going into this home. And like I said, she's going to close in a couple of days. she's going to go into this home ahead of the game.
Right.
She knew the value of owning real estate.
Yep. Home ownership.
She knew the value of, doing a little bit better for her kids.
Right.
And knew the value that I don't want to spend above my means. I don't want to be stuck. If we want to go to the beach for the weekend, we have the means.
Right.
If something happens, because life happens, emergencies happen.
Lives.
We have the means to take care of that. She understood what homeownership looked like in, because there's cost associated with homeownership, not just your mortgage.
Right.
She understood that if there was something wrong, the garbage
Anything
disposal
goes wrong,
goes out.
she's responsible for those repairs.
And she knows that, she's got people that she can call on, and she's got money socked away to make those repairs if necessary. So I think it's just a really great mindset. She's an inspiration to me. She stayed consistent. She found a property that would work based on her actual criteria, not emotion.
Right.
She didn't. And
she was disciplined for not allowing that emotion to take over.
And she's still excited. Don't get me wrong. She's still emotional. I mean, we're almost at the finish line, but she knew what she needed to do. Her payment ends up being less than her current rent. The property's about the same size as the current place she's renting. Most buyers aren't doing that.
Right.
They're not. They're looking for something comparable to what they're renting or better.
Right. And most of the time, in a lot of instances, that rental looks good. But if you look at the payment or the cost of that property, it's definitely more than those properties out there in today's market.
And we hear that pushback a lot. A lot of people are looking for something comparable to what they're renting or better. And a lot of buyers are shopping based on their lifestyle, not the numbers.
Right.
And so I know you had the conversation last week.
I did.
We have a buyer that's out looking.
Yep.
She's pre-approved for a certain amount, and that amount wasn't what she wanted.
Well, yeah, when she got the list of homes and she didn't like some of the options or some of the amenities, she was looking for something more.
Right. And so a lot of buyers that we talk to are comparing it to whatever it is they're renting. And we have to stop and take a pause about that, because what are they renting? First of all, how long has the landlord owned that property?
Right?
Did they buy it 10 years ago?
10 years ago,
and what is
prices
that?
Were,
Did I, as a renter, actually make the final mortgage payment for this landlord?
Or in some instances, I pretty much purchased a home for
the landlord.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon. And if it's a corporation that you're renting from, oh gosh darn it. But maybe you're living in a property that's value is higher than what you qualify for. And I understand we want to live in a nice place. I understand that we get used to certain things. But the one thing that I can't stress enough is that we're making somebody else wealthy.
Yes.
We're paying a mortgage, just not our own. And we can only afford what we can afford. And that's why I wanted to start with the client who's getting ready to close next week.
Right.
I wanted to start with that conversation because she really did kind of touch a part of me that said, this is it. This is the way we should be doing stuff, because we're so busy trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I'm not telling you that we shouldn't like nice stuff. We absolutely should. If you like really nice stuff, that's something to work towards. But if your salary isn't permitting that, should you continue to live in the same type of property you're living in while making someone else
wealthy,
or at least paying off their mortgage?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe that's your thing, and that's cool. But if you want to move forward towards homeownership, don't let that stop you. I talked to somebody a while ago and had the conversation like this, okay, you love where you're living. That's cool. You do want to own real estate. We had that conversation.
Well, you have to be in the game to play the game.
And that's it. And another thing that we're seeing more and more of, the affordability gap is becoming farther and farther. We know that wages aren't keeping up with cost of living. So if you're comfortable renting, right? And you want to rent, that's cool. But if you want to kind of get your feet wet in real estate. If you want to be a homeowner, whether it be your primary residence or an investment property or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and don't get caught up. Just because you're purchasing that particular home doesn't mean you can't purchase another home.
Well, that's the thing. Most people think that we all say that this is going to be our last house. I've said that a couple of times.
Right.
This is it. I'm not buying another house. This is my final house. And a lot of us, when we're buying our first home, we envision it being our dream home. And again, I'm not telling people that they shouldn't get everything they want in their home. Chances are you won't, though.
Right.
Look for the stuff that you need in a home. If you need 3 bedrooms, and that's important because you have 2 kids, then that's a need. If you want a fireplace in your bedroom, again, do you need a fireplace? Is it going to be a deal killer? Well, if you're on your second or third or fourth home and you're, in a financial position to have a fireplace in your bedroom, yes. When you're purchasing your first home, is that going to be a deal killer?
Right. Agreed.
So really, my suggestion would be take a look at the full picture.
Yes.
Sit down, figure it out. Figure out your budget. Know what you're putting out every month. We've talked about that a lot, haven't we?
We have, and that's why we do have that call regarding dreams and goals of what you want.
Yeah. What are you trying to build? What does right now versus the future look like?
Yep.
So before we get out of here today, let's take a moment to talk about something that's important to both of us.
Very important.
If you've tuned in before, you've heard us talk about fair housing and the importance of fair housing.
Every day.
April is gone. It's May. I forgot to say Happy May to you.
Yes.
Happy May.
Happy May.
April was Fair Housing Month.
What about this month?
This month, in my opinion,
It's
is still Fair
Housing
Housing
Month.
Every day is Fair Housing Month.
Yes.
Every day is Fair Housing Day. We all deserve an equal shot,
We do.
accessibility, and fairness in housing. I believe that housing is a human right.
It is.
Silver State Fair Housing Council is the nonprofit right here in Nevada that provides education, advocacy, and support to make sure people understand their rights when it comes to housing. It's not optional. It is the law. Fair Housing Act passed in 1968. It is worth fighting for still today.
I agree.
If you think you've experienced housing discrimination or would like to learn more about the work that Silver State Fair Housing Council does, please feel free to reach out and we'll get you connected. You can call or text us. We're at 702-540-0420. Again, that number is 702-540-0420.
We'll be back next Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. right here on KUNV 91.5. Until then, believe in what's possible, even if you've been told that it's out of reach. And remember, stay true to yourself and your mind.
Bye.